Today we're making a Sicilian pork sauce called Sciabbó. We're going to do it with pappardelle, and as you can see, there are very few ingredients in this. I promise you, it is super delicious. Okay, so let's go over the ingredients. So I have 2 pounds of pork shoulder here. This is just labeled country ribs. Here in the Northeast, people will use these for Sunday sauce or Sunday gravy. In other parts of the country, they will use them for different things. You can also just buy a pork shoulder and take 2 pounds of it, or you can use ground pork. Now, the majority of the recipes that I came across for this, I have an old book that has it. There's a few online. Almost all of them, it's ground pork that's used, and it's quicker. I do think it's better to use this because it will just give a little bit more flavor, and then you can also, it's kind of like a braised ragu that you can put in the fridge overnight. You can defat it if you like, and then you can make a simple dish with it the next day. But the choice is yours here. If you go with ground pork, it's going to be far quicker. 1 28-ounce can of tomatoes, 1.5 cups of dry red wine. Okay, that's our liquid component. I have 1 medium onion that is diced, a little bit of olive oil or extra virgin olive oil we'll use. Pappardelle I love. It looks great, but it's also really good pasta to use for any type of ragu like this. If you can't find a good pappardelle, you can use ziti, you can use rigatoni, just any substantial pasta would work great for this. 3 tablespoons of tomato paste, and the unconventional ingredients are these right here. This is 1 tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa powder and 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Now, this is called a Sicilian Christmas pasta, so I guess this gives it that Christmas flavor. Now, I like to start with this amount. At the end, we might add a little bit more, but the goal here is not to make this a chocolate sauce that tastes like a ton of chocolate. And it's not to be a cinnamon sauce. These complement the flavor of the pork and the tomatoes and the red wine. One other ingredient is sugar. You might need to use that to balance this out. When I tested this recipe, and I did a couple times already, no sugar was required, but we will test at the end. All right, so all we're gonna do here is sear this pork. Okay, so I'm using a 5-quart brazier. We're gonna cook this in the oven after we do our sear and make our sauce. Set your oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? And then let's turn this on to a touch higher than medium, but not much. Okay, while that's heating up for a second, you can just season these up with salt and pepper on both sides. Okay, I cut it, this was 2 long strips. I just cut them simply into 4 pieces. I just wanna make sure they'll all fit in my pot in one go so I don't have to do multiple times. But if you have a smaller pot, like a Dutch oven, you might have to do 2 batches. Just gonna put a little bit of olive oil in this pot right now, maybe 2 tablespoons. The pork has a ton of fat in it. You can see all this right here, and that's a lot of flavor in that. Your ground pork is typically gonna be just ground pork shoulder. All right, so we had 2 pounds of meat there. So general rule of thumb would be 1 to 1.25% salt level of the weight. So that's 900 grams roughly. So you're looking at essentially 2 to 3 teaspoons of diamond crystal kosher salt, or about 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of fine sea salt. Okay, so the oil's nice and hot. And also I patted these dry a little bit, just try to get any excess water off of them. And I'm just gonna put this over that because it's gonna start splattering up with all of the pork fat. I wanna get these nice and brown on both sides. Okay, so while that's going, we're searing it. These are the tomatoes I have. There's a lot in the can still there of the puree. We'll just put a little bit of water in there to clean the can. And my hands are clean right now. You can just hand crush these. You can just do a blender, like a immersion blender or a blender pulse of them. That's the simplest thing to do with whole tomatoes. So I'm just gonna use a shield hand here, okay? Just so things don't splatter all over me. And I'm just gonna break them up, make it a little rustic today. I switch back and forth, depending like what I wanna do. Sometimes, I'll go with crushed tomatoes, which is totally fine for this. There's no herbs in this one that I could tell. And it's often not finished with cheese either, but I thought it was better with cheese at the end. All right, so that's nice and broken up with the hands. Okay, and then we just clean that can residue with some water. Okay, it's been a few minutes. Let's check them out. Okay, so nice and brown like that. That's what we want. Okay. Tip that oil. And I might put a little bit more in there. All right, we'll do the other side for about the same amount of time until it gets nice and brown. All right, let's check these out. Let them go a little bit more. Maybe another minute. So this one's similar to, not similar, but it uses pappardelle to the recipe short rib ragu, which is the cover of our cookbook. So our cookbook has Doesn't have this one, obviously. This is a newer recipe, but it has a few different ragus that will whet your appetite if you like these type of recipes. Cookbook's right here. QR code's right here. It's in the description. It's coming out. By the time you see this, it's going to be out in 2 weeks. We already sold through the first print copy. We're on our second print copy, which might sell through too. So if you want to get a copy on that date, I would order one now. And I think you're going to love it. We're positive you're going to love it. It's going to be recipes that you're going to want to make, that you're going to want to use this book. You're not just going to want to buy it and stick it on a coffee table. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but our intention was to put our recipes, the best recipes we think you're going to love. All right, so it's been a few more minutes on that side. I'm going to turn the heat off on this now. We're going to do onions next, and I don't want them to burn right away. There's no cross-contamination here. I'm using the same thing that had the raw pork on it, but it doesn't matter because it's going back again and everything's going to be cooking in the oven. Just so you know, we get questions with this topic a lot, and I think it's for newer cooks that don't understand what cross-contamination actually means. Cross-contamination would be if I'm going to serve it now and put it on that plate, which would be a no-no. It's just a way to save an extra plate. Okay, see how it's very dark from the searing there? So that's why I wanted to turn this off, like let it cool down a little bit. So now just that residual heat in this pot is still gonna sear those up. And you can put a little bit of water down there, and then you can just kind of clean the bottom of your pot right now as you're searing it. That water is going to evaporate in a matter of seconds. I don't even have the heat on my burner yet. Okay, maybe a touch more. All right, now I'm going to turn the heat back on to a touch less than medium. Just do a sprinkle of salt on those onions so they'll release more water. Just scrape that bottom. Okay, and essentially we have a clean pot again, but all the flavor is still left. We still have it. All right, so we're gonna cook these onions until they get nice and soft and translucent, about 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, so after about 5 minutes, they're gonna look like this. And now we're gonna add the 3 tablespoons or 45 grams of tomato paste. Okay, we're gonna cook this paste for about 3 to 5 minutes in with the onions. And things start to get a little too hot, they start burning, just turn your heat down or add a splash of water. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes. I added a touch of water at one time, so I just keep it clean without burning. Okay, and then here is our red wine. This is 1.5 cups of dry red wine. I don't even know which one it is. Lots of questions about what wine to use all the time. I would go with, basically it'd be an end cap in the liquor store right before you're checking out. They'll, the owner will normally put a few bottles that are pretty good for about $10 to $12, and those are the ones I typically buy. This doesn't matter if this is Chianti, okay? It can be Cabernet, it could be Merlot. It just needs to be a dry red wine. What does dry mean? It means it's not sweet. So if you're still unsure, ask the person, and then they'll tell you. All right, we're gonna turn the heat to high. But no, don't put a bottle of Barolo in here. Don't do that. Don't put a bottle of Amarone in here, unless you got big bucks. This is a very inexpensive dish. The pork was, how much a pound? What was that? $3.99 a pound, right? Yeah. So we're using $8 of pork. We're using about $5 of red wine, and the can of tomatoes was $3. Pasta that's an expensive pasta. That's like $5, but you don't have to use that. You can use the Checo. All said and done, you're at about $20, and this meal is going to easily feed 4 people, if not 6. Easily. You're going to have a little bit of the ragu left over too, so you could probably stretch this to 1.5 pounds. Beats spending $20 at McDonald's for one person, right? I think it does. So what I'm doing, I'm bringing it to a boil. Now I'm just going to clean my pot one more time. Okay, you can try to scrape down the sides here. It's fairly difficult to do. It's not a big deal. That's good. Lower it a little bit, put those tomatoes in. And I'm actually going to clean this too with a little bit of water. I want to get all this in there. It doesn't matter if there's a little bit extra liquid in here. You'll see when it comes out of the oven. Okay, so it's heavy on the red wine. These flavors go together. The very deep, almost like a brick sauce we're going to have for our pasta.
The wine smells so good.
So good. We put up a video today. It was a rosemary chicken. Somebody's like, I dare you to cook without wine. So I was like, okay. Most recipes, you can take out the wine. For something like this, you can take it out. Just add beef stock, same amount. It'll still be really good. But red wine is hard to sub with because in a dish that calls for white wine, you can use chicken stock and a splash of lemon juice. And essentially now you have like this acidic liquid that is close to a white wine. But for red, I don't know, like it's hard, you know, you're not gonna be able to put just like standard grape juice in here to have the same taste. I wanna bring this up to a simmer. So you can do a little initial taste right here. You're gonna have a heavy wine flavor right now because we didn't evaporate the wine. But you can do an initial taste and do a tiny bit of salt and pepper if you like. And that's good right now. I'm not gonna do anything right now. We'll do it at the end. Turn off the heat. Let's add the pork back. Now you can cut these into chunks more. They'll probably get tender quicker. Okay, all the juice too from there, put it in the pot. All I'm gonna do now is get this in the oven and we're gonna let this braise for 2 hours. And then we'll check it for tenderness. Like I'm not completely covered here, so what I'm gonna do probably at the half a point, I will just flip these. If you look at the print recipe, and you should always look at our print recipes to reference them, I cut everything into much smaller chunks so they all kept in the bottom here. You know what I'm gonna do right now? No, I'm gonna call an audible. I'm gonna cut this just so I can I want everything in there, just so I don't have to do that, so I don't have to open up my oven. See, I leave the mistakes in. I leave them in there for you. All right, so I just cut them, those 4 pieces, I just cut them in half again, so now everything is pretty much submerged. Cover it up, just give a little wipe to all that splatter, that pork grease, fat, and then in the oven for 2 hours, check it for its tenderness at 2 hours. We wanna be able to shred this. If you don't wanna use your oven here, keep it on a low simmer, covered, and check it every 30 minutes to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. Electric stove always tends to stick. If you have a gas stove, you know, you'll be fine. Okay, so it's been 2 hours exactly. We're gonna check this now, see how it's doing. So I wanted to be able to shred it, so I gotta check this, and see I'm going through here, it isn't quite tender enough yet. No, this needs more time. Okay, I could tell already. Some of the pieces are soft enough, but not all of them. So I'm just gonna flip them over. Okay, they're close. Most of them are close.
How much longer?
I'm gonna say we're gonna put this in for another 30 minutes. Doing this for another 30 minutes is not gonna make it worse, all right? It definitely isn't. It's pretty much just this piece. Now, like if I go like this, see I can start shredding it a little bit, but I want it to be shred a little bit easier. So 30 minutes is gonna be more than enough time. Probably only needs about 20, but that'll be fine. Put it right back in the oven. Okay, so I put it in for an extra 30 minutes. Bring a pot of water to boil right now because we're gonna sauce this. Okay, just come in like this and see how it's just like breaking apart, right? Like I can like shred it with just one fork right now. Okay, pieces come off like that. So what you can do is, depending on how much fat you had in here, if there's a ton that rose to the top, you can defat a little bit. I'm gonna leave this all in here, it's gonna be good. If it was a huge layer of fat on top, I would defat it, and that's really just gonna be a function of how much fat the pieces of pork shoulder had in it. So you can break this up with a wooden spoon, you can use some forks, or you can just mash it up like I'm gonna do here, and it's all gonna just break apart very easily. Essentially be able to shred it. And do it as much as you like. You can leave some nice big chunks if you want to, which would be great. Okay, so now we're gonna mix in the chocolate and the cinnamon. So this is 1 tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa powder, and that is a half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Right when that cocoa powder hits, you can smell it, and the cinnamon, and it'll darken it up even more. It's just gonna give that really nice brick color to it that we already have, but it's from the red wine, but it's even more so. If you had too much evaporation in your pot, don't worry about it, even if it's super thick, because you just add pasta water to loosen up everything when we sauce it. I'll add some, but I probably don't need too much. So I'm gonna taste this right now. Let's get it perfect. That is so good. I'm gonna knock down these edges here on the side. That has even more flavor. So I don't think it needs sugar. If it was too, I guess, dark for you and a little too strong, that's gonna be able to balance it. We'll see what the taste tester thinks. But I'm gonna go with no sugar. Whatever pasta you're using, just cook it to 1 minute less than al dente. We will finish it in the pan. Okay, so I have a big pan here. This is a 14-inch pan. Just get something big enough that you can sauce it in properly. I'm gonna turn this to a little bit less than medium, and then we're gonna put in about 4 cups of our ragu. You're gonna have a little bit extra to save, but I always make more than I need. All right, that's good. Just waiting a few more minutes for my pasta. This could be even lower right now. And don't know if I said salted water for your pasta, and just a little bit less than al dente. So my pasta is still a little much on the al dente side. And because this is fairly thick, I'm not gonna really worry about draining this aggressively. So you can pull it a little bit wet because we're probably gonna have to add a little pasta water, so it's just coming off right now when we grab it. All right, I'm gonna move this off to the side. We might need a little bit more of that. Always save your pasta water. Okay, and this needs probably a couple more minutes, so even though it's wet, it will drink it up quickly. And we just want to marry this together. Similar to the short rib ragu, but easier. Now, I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but if you don't like pork, if you can't eat pork, you can make this recipe with beef. And I would just use chuck to make it on the cheaper side. Short ribs are more expensive. I think we're good. It smells so good with that burst of chocolate. By the way, it goes without saying, if after you add it, you think you need a touch more, go for it, but don't overdo it. All right, James, there it is.
I love this.
You love this one?
Yep, it's like my favorite.
You're setting me up for success right away.
Yeah. It smells so good. I couldn't wait to eat this.
All right, let me give you some, a little bit more. Would you like a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. It smells really chocolatey.
Okay, now, would you like cheese too?
Yeah, sure.
So, in my research,
I can put the cheese.
Do you want to do it? They said no cheese traditionally, and it definitely wouldn't be Parmigiano Reggiano if it's Sicily. I have a lot of cookbooks from Sicily. A few of them do a foreword in the beginning saying how this cheese was never used up until relatively recently. Like it just wasn't a thing. Always Pecorino Romano.
I'm not allowed to lift up the plate.
You can lift up the plate.
All right. It's just easier to eat it like that.
You're too tall.
So flavorful. Like, you really taste like chocolate, I feel like.
Same as last time, same amount. Difference here is I used whole plum tomatoes versus I think last time I used a can of crushed. I think these tomatoes worked out a little bit better. Same pork though, everything. I deboned the pork shoulder last time. This one I just bought the country ribs. That's the other difference.
It's really good.
I love that pasta. Love this brand. This pappardelle is like real good. Anything you want to give a little, I mean, you said it's chocolatey. Does he taste a touch of the cinnamon in there or not? Yep.
Yeah, and you can really smell cinnamon.
Yep.
It's so good, honestly. Like, just stuff like this, like bolognese. It's like the best. I love pappardelle in general. It's my second favorite kind of pasta.
What's your number one?
Angel hair.
Angel hair. That is complete end of the spectrum. But this wouldn't work with angel hair.
Yeah, no. Angel hair is good for like buttery pastas.
And liquidy.
Yeah. This is a 10 though.
It's a 10, thank you.
Yep.
There's really nothing else to add here. If you haven't bought the cookbook yet, it will be 2 weeks roughly when this is posted before it's released. We appreciate you buying it. We appreciate the support. We appreciate you watching our videos. You know, tuning in every week to the family that we have here. That is, I think most of you can tell this isn't rehearsed. Check is in the mail, James, you know, for that 10. No, ultimately it just matters if he does this. He wouldn't do that if he didn't like it. Right, James?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see you next time.
You left him
I'm sorry. I didn't do it. I didn't say it.